Hey there folks, how you doing today? I just finished doing my income taxes. Come on over here, buddy, and help me get these barrels. I got two of them. This one, you take it out by the spray field and fill it with water and make sure that it'll hold. Then we're going to clean it up. We're going to use that to store some fuel in, some diesel. This one is a food bucket. It had olives in it and it smells like olives and it's got olive oil left over in it, but I got a bottle of Dawn over there. I'll get you to scrub it up good with some hot soapy water and we'll get it cleaned out to keep some water in. Okay, hey there folks, how you doing today? Hope all is going well for you. Please bear with, it's raining buckets outside right now. The weather's really nasty here in southeast Texas and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better today. I've had to get out in the weather a little bit today just to get some stuff done, but because I'm cold and uncomfortable and want to get back in by the fire, this is going to be relatively short and I'm going to try to do it without making too many takes. So if you recall back a couple of months ago, I had posted a couple of surveys on the channel and I had a limited response come back, but I was pleased with the overall aspect of how it went through. And I had mentioned before, and I'm going to kind of drive home the idea today, that that really is something that we need to be thinking about, you know, thinking about things. Thinking about things. Do you trust MSM? And if you do trust MSM, do you trust MSM in its entirety? If you don't know what MSM is, you can look it up. I'm not going to say the words on here because the thought police tend to regulate everything I put out anymore. If you trust the MSM, ask yourself, do you trust them completely? Do you trust them in part? You disagree with them on one thing because you know they're full of it, but on another topic you take what they say as gospel? I'm beating around the bush here a little bit, but I'm trying to get your wheels turning. Are you familiar with Gell-Mann Amnesia? If you're not familiar with Gell-Mann Amnesia, I will put a link down here below. That article is only about a 2-minute read, and it's worth reading because it gets you thinking. Regardless, I want you to pay attention whether or not you believe what the Talking Snake media has to say today. Whether you believe everything they say, nothing they say, or some variant in between. Understand that there is a heightened likelihood of us getting involved in things that are going on in other places. And I say that to say this. What have you done in the past 30 days? What have you done in the past week to harden your situation in the event that supply chains or goods or services or something of that nature were disrupted? If you had to get by for the next 2 weeks without being able to acquire anything from a store, would you be able to eat 3 times a day? Would you be able to feed your kids or your dog? I'm not trying to scare you, I'm trying to get you thinking. I want you thinking about these things. There are guys like me who tend to take it a little too far in certain areas of preparation. And that tends to kind of be a human trait, is whatever area you're most interested in seems to be where you bury all your bones, so to speak. It's a good idea to sit back and look at the big picture of what exactly it would take to get by in relative comfort. And by relative comfort, I'm not talking about air conditioning. By relative comfort, I'm talking about staying dry and warm enough not to freeze and not having your belly rumbling 24 hours a day. I had mentioned back at the beginning of the year that I was going to do some videos on tips and helps, you know, things to help you get your mind rolling on being prepared. A couple of weeks ago, I did that little hand warmer video. That was kind of a warm up into it. I think exactly 3 people watched that and one of them hated it. So, you know, it is what it is. I thought it was interesting, but it certainly wasn't intended to waste anybody's time. Nor is this. I realize your time is as valuable as mine. Probably more so. But there's a resource that I've been using for the past few months to kind of guide me in the direction of not going too far in any one direction. And that resource is called the 7-Step Survival Plan. It was co-authored by a Christian author, Mark Goodwin, who he makes some pretty good fiction books. Take that with a grain of salt. But the 7-Step Survival Plan is a resource that he offers free on his website. I will put a link to that down below. You just go on there, click on it, give him your email address, and he'll download you a link automatically for the PDF to that. I don't remember how many pages it was, but it's several pages. But if you haven't done any of these things that I've been asking about, maybe you should think about it a little bit. Whether you believe the talking snake, or you believe underground chatter, or whatever it is that you believe, you should know that there's going to be some ripples in the pond pretty soon. I believe this with my whole heart. So I want to challenge you today to do something today, do something this week to help prepare you for in the event that things were to turn sideways. If you've seen anything at all that's been going on in the news lately, you know at least as much as the narrative allows you to know about there being some unrest and some strange happenings afoot. If you're still watching at this point, thank you, I appreciate that, and I'm going to leave you with a few thoughts that I want you to ponder. Where's the fuel level at on your gas gauge on your vehicle? If you needed to hop into it and get out of town, would you be able to? You know, I'm not talking about having a tanker truck parked out behind the barn. I'm talking about having a 3/4 of a tank of gas so you could get to your sister's house or whatever. Do you have a few cans of ravioli or some chunky soup under the bed or in the back corner of the pantry? Or do you have to order out dinner every night or stop by the grocery store twice a week to make sure that you have something to eat the following night? Have you given any thought to long-term provisions, stuff that is shelf stable that will stick around for a while? I'm not talking about things that we like to eat. I'm talking about things that we can eat so that we don't starve. Do you have a way to purify water if you needed to? Do you have an idea about how to purify water if you needed to? Do you get your water that you drink from the kitchen tap? What would you do if you went and turned the knob and nothing came out? Or if it came out and it was so brackish and briny that you couldn't drink it? These are just things that I want you to think about. If the difference between going out to eat tomorrow and having a bologna sandwich and buying a couple of cases of water were the difference between life and death, would you be willing to do it? If the lights went out tomorrow, but you had a flashlight, how long would that flashlight last you with your current plan to keep the batteries charged? When was the last time you went to the gun range? Just trying to get you thinking. I want you thinking about this stuff. I think it's important. Anything you do to improve your situation today puts you in a better chance for survival than where you were at yesterday. If having listened to any of the stuff that I said today frightens you, well, that's probably a good thing. If you think I'm an idiot and full of it, please just cancel your subscription and quit watching, because it's not going to get any better. I love you guys. I care about you guys. I oftentimes think about whether or not I'm doing anything on here to benefit anybody. If the circumstances were as such that I were doing this only for my own satisfaction, then I think it would be a phenomenal waste of time. As I've mentioned before, doing these videos eats up quite a bit of my time. For every minute or so that you see, it takes me 3 or 4 times that long at a minimum to produce that content. Understand that when I do something like this, I'm doing it because I care. If you don't have 10 pounds of dry goods tucked away for every member of your family, then I would suggest that you do that. Ah, but Jason, I've got a freezer full of deer meat from my hunt last year. Well, that's good until the electricity goes out and that freezer rots. You know, even if you're a fair hand at making jerky or canning over an open fire, do you have a pressure canner? Do you have empty jars, new lids, rings? Do you have that stuff sitting around that you could utilize to can meat if your freezer went out tomorrow? I'm not telling you to run out and buy it. I'm asking you if you have it. If you don't, maybe you need to have a backup plan. Well, maybe I don't know how to cook. Maybe I don't know how to do dry provisions and everything. Well, go buy yourself a case of MREs every payday. They'll last forever. Canned soup, canned pasta, canned meats, a few cans of oatmeal, you know, flour, sugar, stuff like that could make getting by during a shortage a little more pleasant. If you look back to the story of Elijah and the widow, they got by just fine on flour and oil. I want you to think about that. So I've wasted enough of your time. I've wasted enough of my time. I'm not going to beat this dead horse anymore today, but I do want you thinking about what you could do in the event that you had to. So our next video, I'm going to go over in depth some of the details to I don't necessarily like to call it a bug out bag, especially since in my case it's too heavy to bug out with, but a 3-day pack. Yeah, that's right, folks. Do you have a 3-day pack? If you have a 3-day pack, do you have a 3-day pack for one person? Or in my case, do you have a 3-day pack for 5? If you had to bug out and you needed to do it within a half an hour, how much of that time would you have to spend scrambling to put a few things together? Stuff to think about. All right, that's it for today. Love you guys. Take care. God bless.